Well, it would
Okay,
it would
I was
be
just asking.
grass out there, but just from a park planning standpoint, it doesn't do anything for the park. And there were different variations of that thrown out as well. Let's see if I can get one more here. Sorry. There was discussion of one lot here or this lot, and opening this up, or leaving this lot and opening that lot. And I mean, it just doesn't do anything for the park.
Looks like you have a couple more questions, Tom.
Sorry, I wasn't there.
I actually think it does do something for the park, at least from a financial perspective. I would really like to have us do some serious thinking about what the price per square foot is for this park, in this fee in lieu of parkland dedication idea. I mean, you know, I think we've got a $10,000 square foot approximate piece of ground to be met, 9914 or something. And instead of that, potentially it's worth $3,072. I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. I'd like to know what that price per square foot is. If instead we used the 7,076, that first lot that Sue just mentioned, 70, and use that for the first piece, and then started to negotiate on the purchase of the price for the second lot. To me, I think we'd be further ahead on the per square foot lot. I mean, if we're being faced with either $95,000 for 14,000 square feet, or we could get a benefit, a gift of $3,072 for 10,000 square feet, there's a difference of, I think, 22 times. I mean, the price per square foot we're talking about completely different units here. So I know that it's a whole big policy can of worms that I'm talking about with this whole fee in lieu of, and I would actually like to see the city accept no more fee in lieu of parkland dedication until we can get an actual appropriate, well-priced out fee.
Yeah, that's neither of the
But
recommendations, though.
I understand that. So what my preference would be to, if we can't just say, make this two lots work well, I would like to see us consider perhaps the first lot and take care of that first 76 out of the 99. So that would leave us with, another 23, I guess. And then figure out, okay, how do we negotiate the difference between the 2,300 square feet and the 77,000, and figure out a price on that and try to get a lot closer.
Be like
And then maybe with that, do away with
23.
the easement and all those kinds of things. I think we can get something that's a lot closer from a financial perspective. Because, well,
the math is
I
the
know
same either way you do it.
And I don't. To me, I don't care if a park has a weird, goofy little thing to it. It's still a
it's
park.
what I do for a living.
It's still. I know you do
We
it
can
for a
take,
living.
but we can. My
And
point is, we
living
can do
in
whatever you
parks,
want.
right? So in my living, it's being in parks, and so I really get excited about parks, even if they're weird, goofy shapes.
Yeah.
So my preference would be to have the land.
And it looks like we have another question or comment from Tim.
Thanks, Mayor Cheney. It's actually perhaps a little bit better directed to Bill.
Sure.
Bill, the Indian Hills Trading Company Future Park. Can you roughly tell me where the road structure will be in that general area? I mean, I'm looking at it, and it is, like Tom's saying, it is an unusual shape. I mean, is it going to be impossible to add additional land to that if we took the land in lieu of?
I guess I can't say that it's necessarily possible. If we look at the anticipated future roadway network there, Alice Street is the westernmost street stub that's extended south of the Indian Hills Drive area. Pine Cone is the next, and Southview is projected on the west side of the site. I think it's generally anticipated that Southview is going to go ahead and contour along probably approximately one lot depth south of Indian Hills Drive, and probably all the way on over until it makes an ultimate intersection with the extension of Blaine Street as it comes down. Blaine comes down through the subdivision, makes the intersection with Indian Hills Drive, and the right-of-way has been dedicated for it to go ahead and extend down and intersect with East Pluce River Drive. So I'd expect that Southview is going to contour all the way across probably until it hits Blaine Street. There are a couple of different options then for streets that head in the north-south direction. One option is that Pine Cone can come down and follow a similar kind of chicane to the west that Blaine does, and ultimately intersect opposite of Paradise Ridge Road that exists south of East Pluce River Drive there. That then leads the question, we have Nursery is now the next north-south road to the west, and does Alice need to come down all the way to a intersection of East Pluce River Drive? There is essentially the property line boundaries between the Thompson development and Indian Hills Trading Company leaves a strip of exactly 60 feet in width that goes all the way down to Pluce River Drive. So I don't know if that's by happenstance or that was by planning early on with anticipation that Alice was going to continue on a straight southward direction intersect with East Pluce River Drive, but certainly that's how the property lines are currently aligned. I don't know that Alice Street necessarily would need to if we have Pine Cone that'll be here just to the east and Nursery just to the west with Southview that goes and connects the two. There could be an argument made that intersection is not necessary and maybe too close potentially to the Paradise Ridge Road intersection, but that is one question. Certainly, if Alice extends beyond Southview, and I think anticipate it would come down and have an intersection with Southview somewhere in this vicinity, and then whether it would continue on south or whether there'd be some other secondary as Parkland is added and lots fronted or backed to that, whether an additional small street would come in and intersect with the extension of Pine Cone. I mean, those are just kind of some kind of general conceptual outlines.
Looks like
So topography is what created this.
Correct. We had an overall layout of this portion of the Indian Hills, what probably will be 9th edition, depending upon which one comes first. So when we looked at the Indian Hills 8th edition that set up the Grove complex, we had an overall outline for all of the Indian Hills Trading Company up until their eastern property boundary. That curvature reflects that alignment of Southview extending to the east while allowing for residential lot depth on the north side of Southview.
And this.
This street would swing up and actually intersect. It's anticipated that it'll swing north and intersect up with Southview.
Okay. Thank you.
Looks
Thank
like
you.
Sue has a
Okay,
question for you, too,
unfortunately, Les isn't here, but from what I know, looking down Alice, that's a fairly decent grade going straight down the hill.
It's a reasonable grade. It probably would be something that would be in the 10% is our traditional street standard.
10% is the max.
The maximum.
Not yeah.
So I think you're looking at something that's maybe closer to 7 to 9% in this vicinity. It is an approachable, doable grade. If the
cars,
city,
on a bicycle, maybe not so much. But,
Going down, we're good.
yeah, but you got to go home somehow. Okay. I've not been wowed about looking down Alice Street going, why in the world did they put a street here? But, yeah, okay. So I'm not sure that park will be very functional.
Thank you, Bill. Right, I think we got those questions.
Yeah,
Please
if I
carry
could,
on. Please
Now
carry
you
on.
complicate it.
Well, and my apologies to Councilman Lamar. I thought several times there he was done talking, so didn't mean to keep cutting you off.
Well, it really, my explanation or my thought needs to be just drawn out on a more, it's more easy to understand about it. But anyway.
Yeah,
Sorry.
and we did talk about that. The math still works out the same. There's no difference. It's just when you have the property that you own.
The math
And
that's
then-
crazy is the 95 comparing to 3.
Yeah, well, yeah,
I don't know.
That wasn't my
still
math, though.
doesn't get to me. I can't make that fit in my head.
yeah. Okay, any more questions before we go on into some of the other details here? Since our discussions and since this packet was put together, The developer has offered to lower the price from the 95 down to 90, or the 75 down to 70. And, whoops, wrong clicker. There we go. And the 70, of course, is with the relinquishment of the pedestrian easements. Mr. Parks has agreed to, he originally offered $20,000 toward this, with $10,000 matching of any other donations. He's agreed to raise that to $25,000 plus the $10,000 from other donations. And then, of course, if the city could come up with the other half at $35,000, would equate to the 70. Or this question still being, if we were not able to come up, or if we did not relinquish the pedestrian easements, we still have another $20,000 to come up with. And then, of course, there's a whole other, I mean, the ideas are unlimited and angles to this thing. The purchase, granted, I mean, it's our preference. As staff, it was the preference of the Parks and Recreation Commission, and it was the preference of the neighbors that we've spoken to. But if that wasn't to happen, that the Parkland, the dedication to another site was, at least from my perspective, was perfectly acceptable. I mean, it meets their obligation legally, and so if we can't make this happen, I don't know how we could do otherwise, or the fee in lieu of course. So here we are, and Mr. Parks is here. Other people that wanted to talk about this. Yes, sir.
Dwight, just clarification. I see it says city provides $35,000, but wasn't there an opportunity for match from any source? I mean,
That was
private donations,
That was
et
the
cetera?
$10,000
That was
up
the
here.
10,000.
That's the 10 he's got right there.
Okay.
That makes the 35. Their 35, and then we'd have our 35.
Yeah. In terms of that, the city would still put in their part.
I'm sorry.
And the sources of that would be from your parkland dedication funding and maybe the council's discretionary,
Well, we have funds in our land acquisition. It was accumulation, of course, pretty low amount still in there. If the budgets that we've for fiscal year 14 are passed, we would have $30,000 in there. Some of the records going back a while, I just forgot to check them out. Today I just didn't have enough time to get through them all, but I thought possibly maybe we had another 5 within that region from fee in lieu of that we might have been able to have applied to that, but it doesn't look like it. But I'm not positive of that. So we'd have to find the other 5 from somewhere.
I think we identified, 12 in the council's non-prioritized discretionary budget. Walter, you had a question?
There's 12 in legislative non-prioritized if we want to use it. A question probably for Bill, following on, I guess it was Tim's question. How would if the 9914 bill were dedicated over next to the Indian Hills Trading Company Park, as labeled on one of the earlier maps, where would the 9914 be placed when you've got the possibility of Alice extending south, and you've got, what did you call it, south something coming across?
Southview Avenue.
Southview coming across.
Well, obviously, the first item would be it'd have to be placed upon the applicant's property, so it'd have to fall on essentially the eastern boundary of that potential Alice alignment heading south. So there'd be a 60-foot gap between whatever could be dedicated by Thompson Development and the existing dedication on the west side of the Alice from the Indian Hills Trading Company. As far as the ultimate location, where it falls north-south, ultimately I think that would be something that Dwight would have to work with the applicant to identify what's the most suitable location given existing topography and other characteristics of the site. But I'm anticipating it will end up south of Southview, and it'll end up on the applicant's property, which would be on the eastern, what I'll call kind of de facto right-of-way line of the Alice Street extension heading to the south.